สวัสดีทุกท่านที่อยู่ในห้อง
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Infinity Ballroom in the Pullman King Power Hotel Bangkok, and also our online participants through OIC's Facebook and YouTube live broadcast. If you drive to the hotel, please do not forget to validate your parking lot at the lobby and the registration table. In front of this meeting room, we also have an exposition to share with you about the OIC and the Advanced Insurance Institute, as well as the direction on building the insurance community. On the top of that, we also have booth from Thai General Insurance and Life Assurance, as well as Easy Digital and other organizations. If you have any picture or if you want to post any content as well as video and picture, please don't forget to use the hashtag IIS2025 or the International Insurance Symposium 2025. So hashtag IIS2025 and share your impression and help us share the words. For our online participants, make sure that you have your internet and devices ready, and please use your real name on Zoom with your first name and your last name. We will start the second day of the International Insurance Symposium 25 in a very few minutes. And once again, this is the second day, and we have a lot more to cover. I am Mongchai Kitiwan. Once again, I will be your MC, and I will meet you again in a few minutes. And there we will kickstart today's symposium.
อรุณสวัสดิ์ท่านผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านครับแล้วก็ทักทาย
And a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome our participants for both on-site and online through our IC's channel. Before we kickstart the second day of the International Insurance Symposium 2025, I would like to invite you to observe a moment in silence in remembrance of Her Majesty the Queen Mother Queen Sirikit of Thailand. Thank you.
สวัสดีครับยินดีต้อนรับ
And once again, welcome to the International Insurance Symposium 2025. And for this year, we arranged our meeting in the hybrid mode. We have our online and on-site participants. I am Monchai Butikitik Praiwan, and I am truly honored to be your moderator for today's session. This is the second day of the International Insurance Symposium 2025, and this year's theme is Collaborative Intelligence, Building the Insurance Community. And yesterday was the first day we started with the opening ceremony, and we learned a lot from experts and leading minds in Thai and international experts in insurance industry. And today we will continue with more academic presentations as well as panel discussion, which I believe will benefit everybody in Thai insurance industry. For the second day of the symposium, we will start the day with a presentation on the topic of the study on actuarial analysis for retirement lottery in Thailand. This study will help you understand the thinking mind behind actuarial analysis for retirement lottery and why it is important for Thailand, especially nowadays, and what mechanism can be applied. Please welcome the professor from the Department of Mathematics from Major University, Dr. Prasin Mathurapanthorn. Okay, good morning. I am Prasin Mathurapanthorn from Major University Department of Mathematics. Today, I will share with you about actuarial analysis of Thai retirement lottery. I believe that it will be launched very soon, but before we get there, I will share with you some actuarial analysis on the retirement lottery. And we also have the non-math part, so don't worry about that. And this is about myself. Briefly about myself, I am a lecturer at Major University, but I also work with startups and some overseas companies for quite some time. I normally work in financial businesses, and I also work with trading arms and financial studies. But in terms of insurance, I am working in the field of compensation, and we used to conduct sustainable funding on pension and UTF in Australia in the past. So this is about myself. I am a PhD with actuarial mathematics background. If you want to know more, there are only a few places in the world and in the UK. And I went to Halifax University, so they have a specialized PhD in insurance and actuarial statistics. So let me begin. So what do we mean by retirement lottery? Or sometimes we call it retire lotto. And this is a good thing for Thailand. And would it be a good investment option? Actually, this is one of the products, so-called price-linked saving product. So let's call it PLS. And there are many options in Thailand actually. Sometimes we call it the government saving bonds or the banks. With certain savings duration, let's say you put your money in the bank for a couple of years and you will get some return, like investment. So during the time where you save with the bank, you might get a lotto chance maybe once a month or maybe once every few months. That is so-called PLS. And they normally give you some prize, and it doesn't have to be money all the time. Sometimes they give away car or other prizes or privileges or benefits. But this product is very interesting because it closely linked between insurance and finance. So it is like a hybrid between the financial and insurance product combined. And we normally relate it with the lottery or lucky draw because especially Thai people loves lottery and gambling actually. I have some statistics to share with you how Thai people love lottery, but let's wait for a few more pages. So let me take you back to the question about when people buy lottery, how does it actually work? This lottery is pretty much like they pool together your money into a big fund in a bank. And what do they do with this money? For the money they save or you save in this PLS at the bank, if you think about it from the insurance point of view, at least it has been the capital and you should get some interest, and there must be some people who will win those prizes along the way. So how can they find enough money to fulfill the obligation? Because they have to return your money eventually, and they have to find even more money to give away the prizes, and that's why they need to manage the fund like pension funds. But they also need, on the top of that, to take into account prices and extra reserve because they need to give away some prizes along the way as people save with them. Next. Okay, so why these products work? Most of the cases, most people love taking some risk. There are some risk averse and risk lovers, but there are some risk neutral group of people who are not really into risk, but Thai people are more risk neutral, but they want to enjoy some prices. So this product allows you to get some chance on the price and get your savings at the same time, which really serves the demand of Thai populations. And these PLS products can also help reducing some problems such as pension to a certain level, but it's not the overall solution, but it helps. Okay, so let me share with you what is price-linked saving products. So what are the price-linked products in Thailand? Such as, have you heard about the government saving lotto? If you have some of these, you are at least risk neutral or risk lover. So you save, when you save with the government saving banks, you will get a chance for the lucky draw with the government saving banks. And they will do this lucky draw based on the lotto you bought or your saving numbers. And just like lottery, you will win some prize if they draw your lot. But when they give away the prize from the government saving banks lotto, they will look at the numbers that they sold and they will only draw based on the number bought. This is very different from most lottery because sometimes you know that sometimes retirement lottery they sell away like 5 million tickets, but there's a chance that all 5 millions are not sold out and they might draw a blank lot, and in that case there will be no winner. But let's say if they sell like only a handful of people, they will draw from the lot. Maybe there will be certainly a winner. That's the difference between government saving lotto and also the general lotto, and that is the government saving banks saving lottery. So this is one of the products. They actually give you some interest as well as you save with the government saving banks, and most of the cases are fixed term 1 or 2 years. But 1 or 2 years, I mean, for this kind of PLS products in general, it is a short holding products. So it is more like financial products, not actuary product, because 1 or 2 year, it doesn't really have much problem with the volatility and other factors. So it's a very short duration. But for the retirement lotto, you have to take into account other actuarial factors rather than just financial factors. And this is also a new lotto from the GSB, and you also get some lotto and lucky draws. Whenever you see this kind of advertisement, you might be wonder how can they find enough money to pay to you, like from BAAC, and they will need to find enough money not just for your interest rate but also for these products and prices. So at BAAC, I think it's about 20 to 100 baht per one lot or one unit, which is quite affordable. And actually, they have so many prices, not just for money, they also give away lots of products. This is another very good example. And I believe that this is government housing bank. This one was obsolete, but it's quite expensive per unit because it is linked products. It's like a property product linked with lotto. But the duration is only 2 years. So even though it's a linked product, the duration is very short. So when you calculate your analysis, you only use financial terms for your analysis. Now let me take you to today's highlights. But when you start looking at the retirement lotto, actually there's a formal name for that. It is a kind of lottery, yes, but it's actually part of the national savings bond. But how does retirement lotto works under the bond scheme? So let me start by sharing with you about the bond for the retirement fund. Actually, this retirement lotto, to begin with, you have to be 15 years old and older. 15 years old! Because it is very affordable. It's only 50 baht per one unit, but you are being capped with 3,000 baht or 60 units per month. 3,000 baht, and the biggest prize is 1 million baht. Wow, that's a lot. 50 baht, and you have a chance to win 1 million baht in return. And they give away 5 prizes per month. And they also have smaller prizes, like thousands of, I don't know how many prizes are there, but thousands of baht. Like 1,000 baht per one prize. I think they have like tens of thousands of prizes, and they also have other prizes too. So a lots of returns in a way. However, there are numbers of conditions. First, in order to get the principal back, you have to be 60 years old. So when you start saving at 15, you have to wait for like quite some time, right? Until you are 60 years old. So if you don't get sick, some people might even pass away before 60 years old. There's a chance, right? That's the condition. Because we also embedded it with mortality and mobility under the actuarial factors. So when you analyze this kind of product, you have to factor in these terms. And besides of 60 years and above, there are other conditions. And the second condition is you will get it back every 5 years after 60 years old. This is another structure that comes with the actual background, and also you have to be Thai nationality or you have to be in good shape, not disabled, and you have to be alive right at that time, just like life insurance, right? So this feature is pretty much like life insurance, right? So if you pass away, this money will be passed to your beneficiary, but it will be the principal plus interest from all investment, like when you invest in bonds. So actually this product is pretty much like a life insurance in a way, but you don't get that much money. You get only as much as you buy, but you have a chance to win some prize along the way as you save. And you can use Baotang application to purchase this retirement lotto. And I believe that it will be official very soon. But the point is, for this lotto, I think they draw the price every week for smaller price. So this is the time duration. So this is the purchasing period, and the price will comes out around Friday. So 50 baht per maybe 5 million tickets. That would be a total of about 25, give or take, like 5 by 5, 250 million bahts. They give away 5 million. Let's say this is another for smaller prices, 1 million. So let's say 10 million bahts of prize pool total from 250, but they need to give away 6 million every week. So is there any investment to give you that much in just 1 week? Maybe you have to go to Vegas. I don't know. Because the ratio, imagine you sell like 250 and you give away 6. That's quite a lot of price. Almost 20% of the total money that you gain from selling these lotteries. So in every single week, this fund need to invest and get at least 20% return, which is practically impossible. So if you ask me how they can manage this kind of fund, there must be other principal or other seeding funds in order to manage this fund, unless you might not be able to make it. And this is the ration behind that. So basically it's lotto. And 5 biggest prize, 5 million baht, 1 million each. And let me fly through this. Now, why it is very good with Thai context? For retirement lottery, because first of all, Thai people, let's say half of the people in this country buy lottery officially. That's one way, but we know that they also have other kinds of lottery in Thailand. So basically, Thai people love gambling and they love taking risks. But this model is very good because the price is very cheap. Per unit is very cheap and it's more affordable for everyone. People who wants to have some retirement plan plus some chances to win prizes. So 50 baht per unit is very good. And you don't have to pay a lump sum upfront. You can keep collecting more prizes. Like if you buy like other funds like 1 million baht per unit, it is practically impossible for laborers and workers. But this is a chance for them. And in Thailand, there are many people who doesn't have a lot of savings and underbanked people who are not under the tax system. But people like this, they cannot really get social insurance or social security because they are not taxpayers. But they can afford this lotto, and this lotto can be to a certain point a kind of pension fund for them. And this is the policy goals. It is part of the effort to encourage savings and to help people save more. And this is the type of gambling that Thai people attended in last few years, right? I took this from Amarin TV. And actually Thailand, 20 million people buy any form of lottery in a year. So that's 20 million from 70 million. That's quite a lot. And other forms of gambling. So Thai people are, maybe you are kind of risk seeking or risk neutral rather than risk averse. So how can we sell insurance product for them? They love high risk products, right? So for risk neutral and risk seeking people, they don't really care about insuring themselves. So we need to find other features to attract Thai people. Like I think RTF and TLF are very good in terms of insurance, but maybe we need to find other options for them, pretty much like a retirement lotto to attract more people, because this is like how Thai people loves. And I think this product is very suitable for our population because of this reason. And now, let me explain some more reasons why we have to use more actuarial analysis rather than financial analysis. Because we need to actually use both of these analysis in combination, but it is more actuarial because it comes with benefits on death and disability. That's the first reason. So this is pretty much like a kind of life insurance. It is a kind of long-term insurance if you look at it this way. So it is insurance style trigger, so death and loss of capability. So there are many kinds of benefits that works like the life assurance, like death and disability, and also endowment benefits like loss of nationality. So when you calculate all of these benefits, you need actual science to calculate or analyze this kind of funding. And another reason why this product is more actuarial is because it's a long-term investment, at least up until 60 years old. So there are layers of aging, and practically speaking, young people will not buy this product. But I have some statistics to share with you who is the main customer target for this product. And actually they have risk pooling and protection, pretty much like investment. It can be, in a way, it serves like social security, but it contains some features like that. So it's partly insurance and partly social security. Now let me take you to these statistics. This is how many Thai people who bought the Thai lottery in 2022. So more than, I would say, half of the people in this country buy a kind of lotto in Thailand, like 24 million from 70. And actually more women buy lottery than male populations. But when you look at the demographic, like from 15 to 18 years old, they are very small. I mean, these people hardly buy the lottery, but the biggest gamblers are older people, especially working age, like here and here, like 30 and beyond. So we have some age demographic factor. So when you calculate or analyze this kind of product, you have to start thinking about these people. And also the younger people will step up and purchase this product. And do we have enough younger people to feed this fund in the future? Because this fund will suffer a lot from the aging society, just like Social Security, if there are lesser younger people who will grow up into aging society groups. And the overall aim based on this research, I want to design this product and to help evaluating. I mean, to begin with, I want to evaluate whether if this retirement lottery, how can we make it sustainable? What are the conditions in order to keep this retirement fund alive and taking into account liabilities and other factors? And because my background is mathematicians, I apply mathematic models or so-called actuarial models, but lots of people are afraid of the word actuarial, so let's call it mathematics model. But I believe that you understand more about actuarial models, right? So anyway, I'm trying to apply some models to factor in liabilities and disability based on how many people who might purchase this lotto, how many do we have to sell, or maybe do we need to give away more price in order to attract more people, or should we release more units like in order to sustain this lotto? We use the ruin probabilities, and the Thai language is very scary, but ruin probability is one of the theory that we used, and also solvency capital needs. So this is taking into account, but let's have a look at the policy and the recommendations on the policy based on the model that we have developed.
โอกาสดีเหมือนกันนะ
This is a very good chance because most of us perhaps have not seen this kind of model in the commercial side. And so today let's have a look at these models. And so going back a little bit here, the last part that I would like to achieve is that I want to have a real retirement lotto, not like a endowment lotto. So it means that when you are 60, you will get the whole amount back. But actually, so if we do like a real actual pension lotto, and then you give out the pension sort of payment, then the fund would be more sustainable. But if you pay a lump sum amount at 60, then that would be problematic for the fund. And here, this is the summarization of this modeling. Sorry, I have to point the pointer to the correct direction. And so the actuarial modeling approach, I built it on stochastic models. And so this model, we have to look at LPS when there's a jackpot. Oh, I forgot to explain about the jackpot of this retirement lotto. So the retirement lotto jackpot is like this. So if the prize is out there but there's no winner, they would keep the prize and then it will accumulate to the next round. So same with American lotto. So if there's jackpot but no one comes and retrieve the money, then they accumulate the money. And so actually that's actually the good part for the fund, because if there's a jackpot and we can use the previous amount to pay, and so we can do that by increasing tickets from 5 million to 10 million tickets, because the range is quite big and only 20% of the people may win it or less. And so here I built it on a stochastic model, and this is related to the liabilities, and this is linked between returns and income. And because the model is very difficult, and we use this model, and we will get approximate values but not exact values, but we can see what we have to do to sustain this fund. And so the high level findings on this actuarial model is that, so we do three things: price budget that we have in the first place. We have to think about whether the price is appropriate, and we have to think about the budget, and we have to think about what kind of investment strategy that we have to use to invest the money so that we can pay out the prize money. And then we have to also find how much buffer do we have to sustain, to be able to sustain this fund, and to be able to withstand these catastrophic shocks. And because if it's the Social Security Fund, during COVID-19, they use up all the fund, and there's no update yet how much is left in that Social Security Fund so far. And so for the main model policy, we suggested the capital standards, and we talked about the price and product design, how many tickets do we have to sell, and also we suggested on the investment style, which kind of investment should we make, in what kind of asset should we invest in. And so moving on to the liability model, and for actuarial mathematicians, you can actually take my slides and have a look, because it's quite complicated. And so the liability, we need three models. And so the first one is that we need to look at the probability model for the jackpot, for the prizes each time. So L is the total lottery, and S is the number of tickets that is being sold at one point of time. And so this is the process that we have used, the stochastic process. And so it's basically probability model. We look at the probability of the jackpot being out and people winning the jackpot, and so the number of total sale divided by the number of jackpot, and so the claim prices. And so the second dynamic is that we have to look at the size of the jackpot. And so when the jackpot is out, sometimes no one can claim it. We have to actually put it off to the next time. And while the jackpot is not out, we can use the jackpot money to invest and gain some interest out of it. And then we can use the interest for later on as well. And so that's another model. And so next, the last one is savings liability modeling. So this is the monetary amount. Sorry, this is a liability models. We came up with an equation, and each time when the price is out, how do we use that money? And so that's the remaining amount of money in the fund. So it depends on this. So it depends on this, which is the number of tickets sold. And here is it's adding investment here. The investment returns, how many percent did we get? And so there are three components here. The first one is the price of the ticket. The second one is the number of returns, an amount of returns that we reinvest in the fund. And the third one is mortality. So this component relates to the insurance aspect directly. And so this is mortality, right? And so if you look at the insurance part of it, you have to look at the last factor, because when people die, then we have to pay it out right away, or if people become disabled, we have to pay it out right away. And so these are the most important one. The other parts are alien language, so do not have to put too much attention. And so this part is the tickets, and this part is the reinvestment, and then this part is the payout when there is death or disability case. And also when people become 60, we have to pay it out as well. So that's the part where it is being subtracted, and this is the equation which I could not solve, and so I used diffusion method to try to estimate the value. And so let's come to the answer. So this estimate is already being estimated, and then we can see that the root probability here, if it's higher, it means that the fund is likely to go bankrupt. But if it's lower, it means that the fund is less likely to become bankrupt. And we can also set that if this root probability, we can view it as a reserve amount. So you can set a reserve amount as well for the fund. And so let's summarize a little bit here. So let's look at the graph better too. And so here you can see that if we look at this retirement lotto, what is going to happen? So if the price is being issued per weekly basis, and if there are 20% of the people who buy it, and so the buffer that we have to prepare is around 35 million. And so we have to have the initial buffer for the entire process, not just, no, it's not 35 million, it's 3.5 billion. So it's 350 million. So we have to prepare quite a lot. But if you sell more, you don't have to buffer a lot. So around like 100 is good. 100 million is good. And I think that from our forecast, we think that the participation rate is 90%, and because a lot of people are older, and then people are in their 30s now, and then they wait another 30 years, and then they get this retirement pension. And so at the beginning, if we have the initial principle of here in this point, so if you look at the surplus here, if the initial amount is this much, and so this is the participation level. So if there are 30% participation rate, the probability of the fund being bankrupt is here along this line. It's not so steep, but if, wait a second, please. So this is the required initial surplus from the very beginning. So the more you have, there's no problem. So the probability of the fund being bankrupt is very low. And so we have to have 90% participation rate, but if it's 60%, then it's this line, blue line, and 30% this yellow line. So it depends on the participation rate and also it depends on the initial surplus as well. And so we calculated the number already, and this is about investment, and this is very important. If we invest in high volatility products, then that's going to show in the most bottom line. And so for this kind of fund, I think that they could also invest in the fixed assets so that the solvency rate is in an acceptable level. So here in the upper line, but the mortality rate, if you can see that if we invest in a very high volatility asset, the probability of the fund being bankrupt will increase exponentially, not linearly. And therefore, the volatility of our investment is very important. We have to focus on what we invest in. And this is in the case where there's volatility, right? And so I did a stress test. In case of aging society, would the fund still be able to sustain itself? For aging society scenario, the members population of members are shifted to the right hand side, as you can see, and so it means that people are aging more and more older people compared to the younger ones. And so yes, the fund will still exist, but if we are experiencing aging society, the funds will actually have a lot of burden. And this is baseline where there's no aging population, but with aging population, then the liability is higher. We have to pay more because there are more older people, and people are older, and we also will have mortality shift as well. And because people die slower these days, and this is a policy suggestion. If you see or experience aging society, the fund will experience a lot more liability, and we need to prepare more buffer, or we have to invest in something that can cover this discrepancy. And the paper actually suggested the number, but now the presentation is focusing on the overview. And here the aging society scenario. Oh, okay, we can skip this one. And as for investment perspective, it actually experienced very great impact if we have a portfolio, and if they invest in high risk assets, then it's highly likely that the fund would not exist, and so the initial buffer would be required more. And this is according to this line. And if you see this line, if you invest this much and this level of risk, what do you have to do? Otherwise, you are at risk of being bankrupt. And so I suggest fixed income asset with high ratings. And here is the investment strategy which I talked about earlier. So usually it's a low return investment. The higher the risk, the higher volatility, the higher returns. But it comes in at the expense of whether this fund will exist any longer. So if we look at the catastrophic mortality risk, if there is COVID, for example, what would we have to do? And would this fund still be able to sustain? And so if you look at this graph, in that case, we would have to have fund benefit outflow a lot, because there would be a lot of people dying and a lot of death, and we have to ensure we have death, and then when we pay it out, then the number would go down, and we don't have to pay for these people who have already passed away. And so the payout would be lower. And so if the mortality risk is there anything that we can help try to hedge this risk or cover this risk? Did we buy any derivatives to cover or to ensure this risk or manage this risk? And if you pass this point, then the fund would be able to survive because they don't have to pay out any more money. And here, I think that this is the stress test, and so that's it and for the theoretical part. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask your questions right away. So I'm leaving. So please give it up for our speaker, Dr. อาจารย์พระสิน And now it's a Q&A session. For those who would like to ask any questions, you can raise your hand and ask Kun Prasin, or we have a QR code right here. You can type your questions to ask him. So, to summarize, from your model, the retirement lotto is suitable for who? Because now me, as a layman person, I also buy lotteries. Oh, you guys do buy lotteries as well. And people say that rich people buy stocks and poor people buy lottos. Now we cannot invest in stock in Thai market. And so who's it suitable for? Everyone who is age 15 or older, because the features, benefits, as I explained, the return is better. So if you look at the effective return, it's actually better than investing in Thai stock. You mean this retirement lotto? Yes. So when by the time we're 60, when you withdraw all the money, the amount of money may be more than the valuation of the Thai stocks that you hold. I don't bully Thai stocks. Okay, let me take that back. All right. And so if anyone has any questions, there is one question right there. So please pass the mic to that gentleman over there. Please. So I'm Vichai Tosawan Jinda from Kasem Bandit University. And this retirement lotto may be something new for Thailand. And so I would like to know whether you have conducted a study about retirement lotto in other countries or not, and what are the failure or successes that other country experience. Thank you so much. Actually, we had done quite a number of literature review, the retirement lotto in other countries. That is actually one country that did this, but the period that they did was not 60 years. And the result is that now it is, well, it's not up until the time when people turn 60 yet, but the fund has been growing. And in our literature review, this is under price-linked savings, and there are a lot of price-linked savings, but the countries that finished until people turn 60 is Thailand as the first country actually. And so from the literature review, the World Bank actually put a lot of interest in this fund, whether it will be able to exist or sustain itself. It could be a case study. So PLS, as Dr. Pasin has said, price-linked savings, which Thailand would be actually the role model of the world. Any other questions? One more questions. So the mathematicians would choose which products between government savings, lotto, or endowment insurance, or the BAC lotto. So it depends on your risk appetite, and if you want to choose insurance, you have to look at your risk appetite and just manage the risk accordingly. But if you invest, you look at return. So if I were to choose, I wouldn't go for endowment insurance first of all, because for me, my return in investment is 15 to 20% per year. I would not go for endowment insurance. I would go for the government housing lotto, because the effective rate would be higher than investment in the Thai stocks. And so of course the risk appetite for each person will depend on the age and also the conditions of each person. Oh, another question please. So this one is good. The retirement lotto, just what you said, it actually make endowment insurance less sexy. I mean, there are a lot of features that the insurance already have, So if it makes this insurance less attractive, how would that impact the insurance industry? As for me, if we're talking about savings insurance, endowment insurance, so it's kind of like savings and then you get money when you are 60 as well. But the endowment insurance, you can upsell the clients with some other products, because if I want to buy the insurance, I want to look at the upsell products. So based on the fact that you will be living until 60, yes, that's correct, and you wouldn't die in between 60 and now, right? So I think there's one more question, last question.
คือแล้วการบริหาร
So last question is how can we manage the financial volatility and the future world? So what can we do when the market is so volatile, especially for this fund, for the lottery? In this case, most of the fund in Thailand, we already have the risk limit and how much they can invest. I think this investment for the retirement fund should go for the bond and not the stocks, because it has to go for B and above. For legal fund per se, it is being regulated. You cannot invest it in something so volatile for this kind of fund. So if we invest in something not so volatile, so it's not really affected by the volatility. So in a way, the performance or the yield for this fund, it is not as sexy or as exciting, isn't it? Yes, in most cases, I don't want to use the word illegal fund, but there are some like funds like Bitcoin fund. The volatility is very high, but for Thai investment bond, you cannot really invest in this kind of Bitcoin, legally speaking. So thank you so much from the Department of Mathematics, Dr. Prasin Pathurabanthorn. Once again, a big round of applause for our speaker, and please welcome Dr. Nirat Saptavitam, the assistant to the Advanced Insurtech Institute, to present the token of appreciation to Dr. Prasin. I believe that we have a lot of ideas from this presentation on the retirement lottery and also actuarial analysis.
ขอเสียงปรบมือให้กับทั้งสองท่านด้วยนะครับ
So once again, a big round of applause for our guest speakers and distinguished guests.
แค่เริ่มต้นก็น่าสนใจแล้วนะครับสำหรับวันที่ 2 ของ
That was quite the beginning for the second day of the International Insurance Symposium 2025. And once again, if you are joining us online, please feel free to send your question through Zoom or other OIC platforms. And that includes YouTube and Facebook. And please don't forget to share your impression and all the content that you share. Please do not forget to add the hashtag IIS 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to another very important topic, which is road safety. We know very well about Thai statistics and road accidents, which affects a lot of lives. We have heard about the news every day about the road tragedies. But today, TDRI would like to share with you another interest topic under the presentation on from the pilot model to policy under the road safety, infrastructure, and compulsory motor insurance. TDRI, in collaboration with OIC, have conducted a study, and we have learned lots of interesting results from this study. Where is the pilot model and how can we apply to the broader areas of Thailand? Please welcome the Deputy President from TDRI, the lead in the transportation and research. Please welcome Dr. Sumet Wongkitikun, the VP of TDRI and Research Director for Transportation and Logistics Policy. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sumet, and I would like to, on behalf of my researching team, I would like to present the result from our pilot model on road safety and the compulsory auto insurance promotion for 2025. TDRI has received funding from the OIC since the beginning of this year, and For today, the pilot model goes to Prachin Buri province. TDRI and the OIC and also the Prachin Buri provincial office have conducted this project since the beginning of this year. We have a quick motto called Prachinยืนหนึ่ง for road safety, and our project have been ongoing and we have seen good results, starting from the research questions about safety and other safety measures and policy in Prachin Buri province in order to find the possible solutions. And one of the key challenges for the road safety in Prachin Buri was Mr. Director already mentioned about safety issue, because we know that the road safety issue has been a long-lasting challenge in Thailand. Many of you might have heard about this number because in insurance businesses we know about this. Based on the study, there are more than 14 or 15,000 people who died on the road every year. The trend is slightly better these years, but however, at Prachin Buri, in Prachin Buri province, the mortality rate is almost 200 people per year for road accidents. This is a very big risk. So why is it a big risk? In a way, for the Department of Disaster Prevention, which is the champion in road safety and the provincial level road safety plan, they have set the target for Prachin Buri province to reduce the mortality rate for road accident. And the problem is the mortality rate, since from COVID, was actually decreasing. And it is coming very close to the target for Prachin province. But however, since COVID, again, the economic has recovered and people start traveling more and more. So the trend started to go up accordingly to the higher transportation volume and also the economic development. So it makes Prachin Buri very difficult to achieve their goals. And most of the cases, the biggest areas for accidents, or 90% of the accident goes to the 4 main cities: the city district, Sri Mahaport, Kabin Buri, and Nadi. And even more important than that, more than 39%, they don't even have the compulsory insurance, or basically the motor insurance as we normally call in Thailand. So we cannot really compensate or provide them support. We can just give some initial compensation and they might need to pay even more because they are not being protected. And that's the biggest issue. And there are 2 big risk groups for Prachin Buri. So the motorbikes or the motorcycle riders, this is the biggest risk because we know that Thai people ride motorbikes, but up to 70 or 80% of the death cases actually came from the motorbike riders. So this is the biggest risk group. But however, there's another risk group in Prachin Buri because naturally it is the pathway between the economic zones from the southern northeastern region. So when you travel to the eastern seaboard, like in Lam Chabang or Chonburi province, they normally cut through Prachin Buri province. So when there's a lots of trucks coming through Prachin Buri province, there are many high-risk areas such as the road number 304, where it connects between Khao Yai National Park, which is very steep and very risky with lots of slopes and curves, and the road number 304 through Nadi district is where the hotspot belongs. We see a lots of repeated accidents, and most of the cases, the accidents are very big. And this is the biggest challenge for Prachin Buri province, where the research team have been looking at as a starting point. And when you profile the risk group based on the data we have, we started by analyzing the risk group, starting with the youth and teenagers are one of the main risk groups. That includes the studies and vocational school students and students somewhere between 15 to 19 years old, where they are using motorbike to travel between school and their homes. And the biggest risk, actually I would say that almost half of them, they don't even have a driving license. So maybe their parents buy them a motorbike and they just ride it right away. And also the vehicle itself, about 30%, they are not being insured. So this is one of the biggest risk group. So that's the first big group. And secondly, Prachin Buri has a lots of industrial estates because they are located between the southern northeastern region and also the eastern seaboard, like Lam Chabang, there are lots of laborers, and these laborers are pretty much the same as the first group. They are working people, they own motorbike, but they don't have driving license and they don't have any insurance. And many people are driving trucks. So these are the biggest three risk groups that we used in our research, and we want to apply some measures in order to reduce or mitigate the risk. But based on the challenges in the previous page, we analyzed the possible risk and we have come up with some proposition on the pilot model. Based on the three risk group, we want to develop three targets for each risk group. First, we want to develop the road safety culture, especially through the awareness building and also sharing and promotions. Second, we want to improve the road safety work efficiency or effectiveness by improving the legal structures and also applying technologies to improve the legal enforcement as well as to promote insurance. And lastly, to provide long-term policy and legal frameworks. Within our plan, even though the project is meant to be done by this year and the next 2 years, so we started earlier this year, the duration is 2025 and 2028. But based on this research, we also proposed a plan for Prachinburi province for the next 3 years. So not just for the duration of this project, but we also have the plan for the next 2 years. So why the next 2 years are very important? Because 2026 is where the master plan number 5 will finish, and by the next 2 years, we also set the target to reduce the mortality rate per population to be lower than 12% of total populations, which is very, very steep. And that goes back to the first page, because we lost a lot, about 14 to 15,000 people per year. Today, it's about 22 to 23 people per 100,000. The target for 12% means that the number should go down to lower than 8,500 people per year. From 14 to 8,500, that is quite challenging. So how can we do that? And let alone achieving that in the next few years to reduce the number by almost half. When you look at the number this year and based on initial analysis, we believe that we will see about, actually it's already 12,000 and that goes beyond 8,500. So what can we do in order to keep the number even down? When you look at the plan at the country level and provincial level, we already start addressing the target on the 2027 in order to achieve the target at 12%. So based on this project we started this year, we want to encourage people to become more well-disciplined and to prepare the foundations for other works. We already start the plan and we already start some awareness campaign through the communications, especially about road accident and safe driving behavior. So they are more aware with the road safety and also the insurance. Next year in 2026, we want to integrate collaboration between different agencies, because there are many agencies who involved with road accident, and this is actually an advantage for this pilot model. We receive a lot of good support from many agencies, and all of us are highly determined in order to reduce the mortality rate, starting from the governor of the province and also other agencies. And one of the champions are the Ministry of Interior and also the Ministry of Public Health and Department of Disease Control and the Royal Thai Police. They are all the champions for road safety. And that includes the Ministry of Transportation, who is in charge of not just the road, but also the driving licenses. So they want to be fully integrated and to be fully into this project. And by the next 2 years, after we have already prepared the pilot model, we want to escalate and we want to expand to other areas in order to ensure the sustainability of this project. We want to have enough duration for this project, because for road safety, we cannot just finish everything in 1 year and we cannot stop next year. We cannot see improvement by then. The problem for road safety is about people's behavior as well as legal structure and also awareness. And that takes a long-term approach. We cannot just doing it for just a year. We have to do it continuously every year, unless the number will climb up back to where it used to be. So in our working plan, we also propose all of these 3 years for 25, 26, and 27 for 3 years. And we already start to see some of the targets and also the products from this project. First, we also have the strategies and also the risk measures and also the communication. We also have 2 forms of communication, and one of the most important part in our project is so-called Road Safety Week, which was around the end of August, we conducted roadshow and to promote road safety in 5 educational institutions, so 4 schools and 1 technical school, and we received very good response from the students from all 5 locations. We also provide training in a way that we receive a lot of engagement, so it wasn't just lecturer and classroom training where the students were just there and listening. We also encourage the students to engage in order to promote awareness and participation for all stakeholders, especially among the students. As a result, we receive a very good result from this workshop, which will be included in the next few pages. We also have some proposition on the risk mitigation, such as to promote the youth driving license and also to reduce the speed for commercial vehicles and some other basic infrastructure improvements. We also promote and propose the policy change in order to develop more policy at the provincial level and the regional level, especially in terms of safety and insurance. And we have already announced our initial outcome with the provincial agency just last week, and I believe that this project will actually we receive a very good response from the audience, and we have been to a point we have been quite successful in our projects. And these are some of the main strategies that we have applied it for this year and until the next 2 years. We want to reduce the mortality rate to like at least 30% or to reduce the death number by 42 people per year, and also for the wounded and the injured by 20 people per year, and to reduce the number of incidents to lower at least 40 incidents per year. So we also have a target, especially for the motorbike and for the commercial vehicles, including trucks and large size vehicle. We want to keep the number down to 0, especially the mortality rate at Nadi along 304 road, especially along the road highway number 304. We want to keep the mortality rate down to 0, especially along 304, as well as other incidents along the road in the city districts. And this is a very good opportunity where the insurance industry join us in the road safety campaign. So if we can help them prevent some accidents or at least mitigate some of the cases, it will help improving the project outcome actually. So actually we know that lesser accidents mean less claim, but practically speaking, they need to have some insurance first. So we don't want to see these kind of incidents at all. So we want to focus on risk reduction. With more insurance, we understand that even though we do everything perfectly in order to keep them protected, but if there's an incident, at least insurance can alleviate some of the burden, making the situation a bit lighter, and especially in certain unexpected cases. And this is some of the outcome for this project. And speaking of this project, we have 4 key strategies. First, helmet, 100% helmet wearing. And second, to promote training and driving license. Third, to improve the physical features and infrastructures and reduce the speed. And fourth, to increase the number of the motorbike insurance, which is one of the key goals for Prachinburi, because in Prachinburi they want to cut the incidents for motorbikes by half or 50%, and they also have other targets for commercial vehicles, which is under these 4 key strategies. And from these 4 key strategies, we have proposed numbers of measures. And the measures that we have applied are the following 7 measures. And don't forget that the duration of this project is very, very short, only by the end of this year. So we decided to prioritize top 3 measures where we can complete them by the end of this year. And we also have some proposition for the future measures for the next phase, for the 4 other measures, which will be for 26 and 27. So the total of 7 measures that we have proposed under this program. Let's start with the top 3 prioritized measures for this year. First is the communication, especially for the PA system among these 3 districts. So when we start with the pilot area, we have to cover a lot of ground. So sometimes the area is very big and we have to cover a lot of grounds because the area covers a lot of spaces and there are lots of mortality rate. So we try to focus on 3 key districts, including Sri Mahaport, Kabinburi, and City District in Prachinburi. So these are top 3 locations where we want to promote and communicate with people. We have tested our communication media among these 3 main districts. because we know that our risk group are the youth and students. So once we know who our target audience is, we started by looking for the influencers, especially people who can connect with these kids better. Some of you are not aware of these influencers because you are not our target group. If you know who Mo Jack Thaiban is, Mo Jack is very famous influencers among teenagers, especially in this area. So we engage with these influencers to help us promote the helmet and safety and also insurance. So we communicate through the radio spots and through the local radios as well as the local trucks. And I can share with you the result from this campaign in the next few pages, but this is about the PA within the districts. So a very local communication modes. And we have conducted trainings in 5 educational institutions in 3 main districts, as well as 4 schools and 1 vocational school or technical school. We actually started at around the end of August, but here it says September, but anyway, we started back then with the communication and the media. So the reason why we started in the end of August was because it was the period of school break and it was a very good place to start. And for Road Safety Week or RSW, we want to encourage people to get the license and to do the basic protections such as the compulsory motor insurance and to teach them about blind spot and why they need to wear road safety. And we also receive support from the insurers as well, from the businesses, not just from the general insurance, but we also have numbers of life assurance company to join us and share about how to protect their lives and their risk for the students, which is a very good opportunity where we receive a lots of engagement and support from the public and private sectors at the same time, which I believe it will be very good for the project in the long term. And also for the businesses. Besides of the school, we know that there are lots of industrial estates. And in the industrial estates, we know that there are lots of factories and lots of workers, laborers, and officers. And their main mode of transportation is still motorbike. Lots of people are using motorbikes to commute. So what the research team working with the OIC with this industrial estate is to connect with the industrial estates management team to conduct numbers of workshops and activities in order to encourage road safety and safe driving, which were workshops where we invited the factory manager within the industrial estate to join us and to help us provide a workshop for road safety and safe driving, as well as to gain more awareness. And we received a very good response from this campaign. And the result from our communication effort in these 3 target provinces, from the communications, from the radio spots, and from the trucks. And we found that from our study, we conducted pre and post study after we have applied these measures. And after the assessment, we found that understanding and awareness in regards of road safety has improved. People started to show signs of change of their behavior. So actually, because the time duration was quite short, it was only 1 or 2 weeks of training before we conducted the outcome for post-analysis. Most of the cases, it takes a year in order to see significant change, but we started to see some signs because it was only a couple of weeks. The result was quite marginal. It's like 10-15%, but actually that was quite big. It was actually very good for the time provided. And we have to do this continuously in order to see more result. It wasn't just once and for all because it will be just a spark and it will not be kindled. But we need to continue our effort, especially to encourage learning and also to share more information about the road safety to our target audience. And on the top of that, in this project, besides of raising awareness and understanding about discipline and road safety and safe driving behavior, we also focus on the coverage, such as the compulsory motor insurance. Actually, many students don't even know what compulsory motor insurance is. But people who want to drive or wants to stay behind the wheel or the handlebars, they don't even have the basic understanding about the legal requirements. They don't even know why they need to have the driving license, let alone the compulsory insurance. So these are facts actually, so don't be surprised. So what we need to do is we want to change this situation. But what we found was more than 95%, that's the target. After we provided them the workshop, they should have better understanding about the road safety and also the compulsory insurance. Road helmet is very hard because people don't like wearing them. In some cases, it's lower than 30 or 40% of the riders who wear the helmets. But for our target locations, especially the schools that we conducted workshop, we see the trend in increased use of helmets. And the current number is 12%, and we started to see about 20% of students in some form of behavioral change. We also give away some of the safety helmets too, thanks to the General Insurance Association and also our insurance businesses, which is a very good collaboration thanks to you. We have encouraged the students on the helmet use. And more importantly, after we provided them workshop on the compulsory motor insurance, almost 40%, we see almost 40% increase in the insurance for compulsory motor insurance. So they need to be aware, especially thanks to your effort. And the insurance is not that expensive, but the biggest problem is about negligence and also awareness. So as I say, we need to repeat this communication and to continue this effort in order to improve the insure rate. Next, after the schools, we also look at the safety in other business locations. We also have a proposition on the speed limit because we have seen the risk in speeding. We want to keep the speed down under 50 kilometers per hour in the risk area, especially in the community area. So when we say community area, it is a place where we have a lot of pedestrian crossing, a lot of people walking on the street, and lots of traffic like in the city. So speed limit is very important. So we want to keep the speed down in our target locations. And we have been trying to provide some feedback to the business operators and also for the workers in the industrial estate, so they are more aware about the risk and especially to use helmets and to keep the speed down. So we try to factor in all of these risk factors. This is initial findings where we have been trying to track the numbers from our program. This data shows you moving average for the mortality rate, including the death and the injured since from the beginning of 2025, so January 1st of Jan up until November, the 1st of November. As a matter of fact, we cannot claim that the number is due to our project, but this is a very good indicator of the trend because we start seeing decreasing trends of the cases after we have implemented our measures. So we still have to continue our effort and to keep track of the trend. So these humps or plateau is actually very normal. So when you look at the average, like moving average, we are very happy that the number went down, but don't forget about after this month, once it gets closer to January, we will see another plateau or another humps. And we still have to wait and see and try to think about the measures where we can put into place because we start to see a surge during New Year and also Thai New Year, which is undeniably those are the heaviest traffic time. So when we track the data, we have to be aware of these anomalies and we need to think about the measures that we can do. But when you think about the three key measures, there are some short-term measures such as the awareness campaign and the knowledge dissemination, but we also need to think about the long-term effects such as the driving license and to develop the driver skill, which is very important for this project. And if we can do so continuously, we believe that we can reduce or pull the curves or the line down, or at least control the numbers of the deaths and the injury rate in the future. So this is the trend that we have seen.
So what we have done in 2025, what do we have to do next, right? And so the important thing is that we have to keep doing it. We have to expand. We have to expand the network of schools in the provinces and also to other businesses in the province. Prajinburi, there are a lot of industrial estates, but we choose one that we chose because there are a lot of accidents and they're at high risk. And so we did that one first. And so after scaling up, I think that we have to scale up to other business enterprises, and we have also to expand our communication in the province. And lastly, in Prajinburi province, it's just a pilot province, and that's the first province that we worked on. And so we proposed to OIC and other organizations to also do pilot projects in other provinces. And so that's what we do, or we plan to do, to scale up. And so this is very important. And we have to consider and select the educational institutions that will participate in the future. There are a lot of schools and we have to use our partners, and OIC cannot work this alone, and of course insurance sector can participate, and we have to engage in with relevant agencies as well. And so in conclusion, for these three main measures that we did in 2025, we actually have more measures that we should do, at least 4 measures, so that we can continue our work in 2026 to 2027. And so what are the future measures? There are 4 main ones. The first one is to support the students to make their they have to do regulatory and physical improvement measures. And so our long-term plan is to promote the students to make their driver's license. As I said, that more than 50% of the people, of the youth, do not have that driver's license. So we have to promote the students to do or make driver's license. And now actually the driver's license is pretty easy, but we have to focus on the fact that not only do they have to have the driver's license, but they have to adjust their risky behaviors. They have to increase their driving skill as well. And so because riding on a motorcycle is very important, like when to brake, where's the blind spot, and they have to have a long-term training as well. And the next one is on slowing down measures, and the road 304 is risky, especially in Khao Puton, because it's steep, and when the car is driving fast, then it's really hard to brake. And so we have to regulate the speed from the beginning. And so in the road 304, this is a highway. The Department of Highway already announced that this area needs to have a speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour. It's already been announced, but the enforcement is limited. The cars are still driving pretty fast, and sometimes big cars are driving at 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. When they're going downhill, it's really hard. It's not able to brake. And so the way that we have to fix is that we have to limit the speed low from the beginning, and so then people have a chance to hit the brake. And so how do we do that? The commercial vehicles, the Department of Land Transport, they have already installed the GPS, and they have already stipulated the speed limit. And you can see that the commercial vehicles are trucks or big buses. They don't run over 90 kilometers per hour. You would not see the yellow plate van that run at 120 or 130 kilometers per hour because they are limited. But what we propose in this project, actually they have their equipment, but we want the highway 304 to have a speed limit of 50 kilometers per hour, and then the cars will be driving at a slower pace. And then so if they exceed this speed, then they will get the speed tickets, and then the logistics businesses will get the tickets right away. And so you can see that these trucks do not run over 90 kilometers per hour because they have been fined. And so they strictly tell the drivers to drive within the limits. And so Highway 304 will be the model road from now on that limits the speed. And so the model road, another one is Prajin Anusaran. And so we would use it as the model road. And so there would be speed limit and also there'd be area for pedestrians, and they would have high standards for road safety as well. And in Prajin Anusaran Road, it's having 3 to 4 schools along the road, and also there are guardians, parents, and students walking across the road, and therefore we have to design the road appropriately, and that's very important. And so the speed limit in the highway 304, as I said, in 304 there are some areas that passes through industrial estates, and so we want to have regulation for speed limit throughout the road, and so that's the measures. And so in conclusion, so we did Road Safety Week. We could access the industrial workers. We actually improve physical risk spots, and also we regulate the speed. And so we expect that we would be able to sustain this project and save lives of more than 40 people. And then also the economic value, we said that one death costs around 6 to 7 million baht per person. So if we can save 100 people, the economic value that we can avoid losing is more than 900 million. And so if we insurance business know that if someone is dead, they would have to pay 500,000 or 1 million baht, and so it depends on their insurance policy. And so if we can reduce the accidents and deaths, then insurance industry will benefit from this, and then they can use this money to compensate on some other things. And the important lessons of this project is that we have proactive measures that are concrete as well. And the second one is it's enforceable, and we have to do it together with campaigning. And many times, sometimes we enforce about wearing helmets, and if the police just set up a checkpoint, there would be a lot of resistance. And so when we try to enforce, we have to also do campaigning and raising awareness first, and the enforcement will follow, and that's very important. And the continuity and the integration is the key. When we do things by OIC cannot work alone, and insurance companies cannot work alone. We have to collaborate. And provinces is very important. Governors is very important in helping push this forward. Police, we have the provincial police stations to collaborate and provide inputs for different measures that we have. We have educational institutions and these 5 schools to collaborate with us to do these road safety activities. And lastly, the sustainable resource allocation. What do we have to do to ensure that there is budget, and how can we utilize this budget to its maximum benefit, and how to make it sustainable? And lastly, and this is like the lesson learned and also suggestions, and this is the policy recommendation. In the next 2 years, we have to integrate the plan to the provincial plan so that we have continuity in the execution of the plan. We should also use compensation fund mechanism to support the prevention of accidents in Prachinburi, and also we have to create the collaboration network between public and private. And now insurance companies now are starting to participate, and they see the benefit of campaign on safety. And this is not just the first project that insurance companies do. I think that Thanachart and other insurance company, I think that they have the projects relevant to safety, road safety, and now OAC is working on this. And also there are some association that is participating as well. And also we have to develop the data system and innovation to solve the road safety problem, and that's the policy recommendation for the next 2 years. And the collaboration pathway, we have to have permanent collaboration mechanism. We have to have lesson learned and also expand our collaboration. We have to have MOU between, for example, OIC and the provincial office, and also the relevant the insurance business sector. And also we have to communicate and coordinate with the public as well. And all in all, we have 7 important measures For example, promoting driver's license and speed limit, and also having a pilot area, and also slowing down the speed. And that these are the 7 main measures in conclusion. And so I think that the project has achieved a lot of things, and there would be a lot of other things that other agencies would have to do moving forward. And that's the overview of this project for this presentation today. Thank you. So please give a big hand to Ajahn Sumit, please. And now it's time. It's an important time, and so we would like to open the floor for questions and answer. And you can raise your hand, or you can actually type the questions in the QR code. But from what you have said, it's actually relevant to me because I drive on the highway 304, but my house is not around that area. But I would like to see this pilot project work, and that it is being expanded and scale up in other places so that Thai people have a better quality of life. And there is a question at the back right here. Please pass the microphone to this gentleman at the back. So wait a moment, please. In the meantime, you can now use the QR code to submit your question. Thank you so much. Thank you, the OIC, and also the Road Accident Compensation Fund. And thank you to this project as well for doing and leading our way forward. My question is, so for do you work for TDRI? Do you work with other organizations to conduct research as well? So I was talking to the special experts the other day, and we talked about the goal and strategies of the project. And lastly, we want to achieve that insurance, right? We want to promote insurance, but the first 3 measures relates to a lot of other stakeholders. In order to achieve successes, you have to ensure continuity of the execution, and now you're piloting in a province is a good thing, but I'm now talking about the plan. It has to be integrated in the provincial development plan because this will result in budget and continuity in the execution. And this relates to people who would like to learn. Because you talk about the target group of students, they can actually share this knowledge with their parents. If the students already know and have awareness already, they will see the necessity. And just now, from the statistics that I know from a meeting in the accident center, National Road Accident Center, you can see that this kind of project, there are many agencies that are doing this kind of project, including the parliament and the private sector as well. So I'd like to hear your views. The project and researches under TDRI, are you collaborating with other agencies, and what are your successes? And what are the gaps that needs to be filled to ensure sustainability and continuity? And so to reiterate the question, so the question is, have you worked with other agency excluding OIC? So your TDRI researches, is it connected with other researches and yield any results? Actually, the road safety research, so in my experience, it has been done for the past 20 years. And the research funds comes in different sources. First, it's the Thai Health Foundation that gave this fund, and I believe everyone knows about this. And then at the beginning, we got the research fund from the research council, and also the TSRI, and also the Department of Land Transport as well. These are the people who give the funding for research. And then the issue is the topic of research. And TDRI, we have the road safety draft plan, the fourth and the fifth plan. And so we have the macro plan for all the plans. And then we have different researches, for example, to enhance safety of public vehicles or crossing. And so we do a lot of researches. And so I understand that the the centers have conducted the data analysis and also propose additional measures. But this project with OIC is very interesting because it's the first project that OIC actively participate and actually work in the provincial level. And why is it important to work in the provincial level? In the past 20 years of our research, we have the structural problems on, registration, driver's license, and etc. But provincial level is the execution level. When we work in the execution level, there is a gap which they are not able to do well. And so in the past year, together with the past year, we assess each province according to the master plan, and we can see that the integration and of each province is not that good if the governor and the relevant agency cannot coordinate well. And so this project, I think, the reason why it's successful is because first, the governor has good leadership, and secondly, OIC has been monitoring and also have submitted the analysis and also proposed interesting measures and incorporate insurance. And so with this, it leads to success quite a lot. And OIC, we thought that they're going to focus on insurance, but actually this project, the OIC wants to include the aspects of reducing accident in there as well. And so there are a lot of rooms for improvement and execution in the future. And so before I let the gentleman in the back ask questions. So after I heard you said that there are a lot of relevant agencies. And so as someone who doesn't know about this matter, so when you want to do something in Thailand, do you think there are too many agencies involved in Thailand? I mean, people have different responsibilities. For example, overall, if you look at the road issues, we have the Ministry of Transport, right? And then when we talk about local level, the Ministry of Interior is responsible. And so these are the two big ministries that are responsible. But when they have to work together in the local level, then we have to go for the MOI and also Ministry of Transport. And so in terms of legal enforcement, of course, we need police from the RTP. And so these three agencies are separated, but they can work together and they can have common plan that they can execute together. But Thailand may not be able to connect that well among agencies. The functions is too siloed, but if it's better connected, it will be more efficient and successful. And so this is my preliminary input. But just preliminary input is good because the word integration of the work is something very important. So last question from the back, please. Yes, I'm Vichai Supongjinda. After listening to the report from the TDR, I believe that it's a high quality research, but there are some issues which I would like you to elaborate on and whether you have done that or not. The first one is the law enforcement aspect. And you use incentives to promote. Maybe it's not sufficient. Maybe we need to motivate them in the long term. For example, students in school, they can be assessed that as their grade, that could be a part of their grade. For example, in factories, the workers can be used, this aspect of the workers can be used to assess them as a worker on how they use their motorbikes. Or the slowing down the speed part. Of course, the downhill path is very dangerous. We may need to expand the lane or expand the lane for the trucks because they not only stay in the left lane, sometimes they go on the right lane, and it's very dangerous. And so we may need additional conditions so that we can have a stricter law enforcement. And secondly, I'd like you to look into the legal aspects and see if there's any drawbacks in our law. For example, in Pradinburi, I think that they have had this motorcycle lane, but now it's a park spots for the cars instead, and they don't get to use it. And please look at the loopholes in the law as well. Have you think about which law needs to be reviewed or revised? For example, the compensation fund law or the transportation law or the insurance law. Do you have any suggestion on that if there's any loophole in the law? So two parts, right? And so the first part is on incentivization and enforcement. I think that this is very important because many times when we enforce something, it's problematic. We have to look at the situation. Just imagine there is one school and 100 students ride into the school and 50 of them don't have driver's license. And if we enforce this, 50 people will be in trouble. So we need to incentivize them first, and then we have to have supplementary measures and see what we can do after that. And of course, if we can change the overall trend from this 50 people without the driver's license, and if the number reduced to 10 people, then we can enforce the law. Because these 10 people may be stubborn people. It's not because they're not aware, and because we were able to motivate the others. And those who don't wear helmets, it's a headache for us. If 5 cars come and if 10 cars come, 5 doesn't wear helmet, then that's really hard to catch them. And so when we enforce the law, we have to look at the trend as well, and we have to ensure that people who abide by the law, at first they may not care, but they were willing to comply later on. And so when we are able to convince them, there would be the rest who are still problematic people, and then we can enforce the law. And the next one is on infrastructure. Of course, the road needs to be made in a safe way for us to drive. And I understand that the Ministry of Transport, they have the idea and concept to build a new motorway to replace Highway 304. And if it's a standard motorway, it would be safer for roads for the riders. And so that's the improvement in infrastructure. In terms of law and regulations, in the team, we have the parallel research with the Thai Health Foundation on the revision of law to come up with the appropriate law. And we will propose the study finding to the relevant agencies. So I would like to thank Dr. Sumet from TDRI so much, and I would like to ask the special expert, Kun Mayuri Suthi Ratanapan from the OIC, to provide the token of appreciation for the speaker from TDRI for us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Sumet and Kun Mayurin, so much for this. And so, our distinguished guests, we will have 10 minutes break. We will have 10 minutes break, and you can take your snacks and eat inside the room. And then we will hear the next panel, and we will learn some new knowledge from Baker and McKinsey as well as WTW. And please come back in 10 minutes, and you can also visit our exhibition booths, and you can post your slow motion video on social media with the hashtag IIS 2025.
เข้าสู่งานสัมมนา International
So coming back to the International Insurance Symposium 2025, once again, all distinguished guests, all sectors and all stakeholders play a role to drive forward a sustainable insurance business and sector, and we are going to hear in the next presentation on sustainable insurance balancing profit, people, and planet. Let's hear from Khun Ampika Kuman, the director and also the legal partner from Baker and McKinsey. Please give her a big round of applause.
So thank you very much and a very good morning to everyone. We would like to thank the OIC for giving us this opportunity and allowing Baker McKinsey to share with you our perspectives on a very important topic. Actually, I spent the whole day right here, and after that, I need to discuss with the team to change some of the contents, but we believe that we should maintain most of them. Yes, because we believe that we can share a different perspective. It's not because that we want to update the slide last minute. Yesterday, we heard from many speakers about the climate change and also emerging risks for insurance business. It was pretty much the same theme. However, we need to talk about that because when we look at the ESG from a holistic point of view, ESG is certainly unavoidable in a world where risk has become more complex. We will need to find a way to balance the business profit, people, and the planet. And I am here with Mr. Amnat and Dr. An or Thirananta, who is Baker McKinsey's sustainability specialist, and we will share with you why a legal firm needs to have sustainability specialist, because it is a very important question. Is sustainability in insurance a challenge to profitability, or is it actually a driver for long-term success? In other industries, it is quite clear for other industries, such as if you contribute to environmental damage, or if you have social aspects involved, such as in the energy sector, it is very clear for them that they need to transition from fossil fuel to cleaner energy, like from coal to natural gas, and now we are looking at renewable sources of energies, such as wind and solar and etc. And other businesses like food or fashion businesses, you can start to see, like in food business, if you talk about how they implement ESG, they need to start managing their food waste in a more systematic way, or they need to encourage food safety or to reduce single-use plastics in their production. For fashion business, especially in fast fashion business, they suffer a lot from, like you have seen in the news, they use a lot of, actually we found microplastic in baby clothes, and I actually love fast fashion too, but I contributed to a lot of world waste. So there are numbers of projects where you can exchange, like at Lululemon, where you can bring your own older sports apparel to get some extra discounts when you buy a new one, or you can switch to organic cotton or recycled polyester. And they have a lot of physical impact, and it is very visible because it impacts you directly. But when it comes to insurance, we actually provide a lot of consultation to insurance companies. We have more than 20 years of experience, at least for me. And when we start talking about ESG, financial services like insurance business, how can we implement and integrate ESG as part of the business? It is very hard to see because for insurance, we don't have any chimneys that generates smoke, and we don't have to deal with microplastic or wastewater by ourselves, and we don't even use child labor. Hopefully, we don't see any child labor in insurance industry. However, for insurance business, it is a business that actually can drive other businesses because you touch upon so many aspects of business. Because as an insurer, you are the one who have to handle the risks. And actually, as an institution investor, you can set conditions for underwriting and exclusion conditions, for example, where it can drive other businesses towards certain direction, or you can steer them to invest more in green business, which will drive the circular or green economy. So you have a very important role to play. And now, today, we will find out more about the integration and to discuss whether if it's just the cost or how are we going to adapt ourselves to promote a more sustainable growth. Now, like yesterday, we started with, our presentation looks pretty much the same. Most presentations started with pictures from the disaster from around the world, and it goes back to even 2008. We started to see common themes. The disaster has become more frequent and more severe and even more peculiar. We started to see something very different in 2025 and even 2024. For example, at the bottom part, we started to see snow falling in the desert, which was quite surprising because the normal temperature was hitting 50 centigrades. But I didn't expect to see this white fluffy snow in the desert like that. And this severe climate has become more severe and has become more closer to us. When you look at the studies, climate change plays a very important part and it contributes to these severe climate incidents. Not all of them, but at least the floods, such as what we have seen recently. And like yesterday from Swiss Re's presentation, they discussed about two emerging risks, which were plastics and extreme heat wave. These were results of climate change. During 2011, when we talk about natural disaster, we tend to continue our conversation with insurance because how insurance will cover or will include or exclude these incidents. Is it under the condition and how it affects the financial stance, such as in 2011 during the great flooding in Bangkok. Baker supported so many customers who need to raise funds, and especially among the insurers who need to distribute the claim and to handle the claims. So we need to put on hold some of the foreign entities in order to pool our resources together to support the local claims first. For example, yesterday I believe that you have learned from the presentations about the reason why we see volatility or severe climate incidents, because the world has exceeded 1.5 Celsius increase, and that caused a lot of changes in our climate. And once these incidents happens, or once the temperature raised, it caused a lot more natural disaster. And to a certain point where we call it a tipping point, we cannot reverse all of these. And people have become more aware, and we started to work with each other and start thinking about how we can manage this situation. I believe that you have heard about Paris Agreement and even Kyoto Protocol. Paris Agreement is a very important instrument. It's like the main act that encourage collaborations and to help everybody to reduce their greenhouse gas and also the world's temperature. I believe that you are in this industry, so you have heard about the news about Thailand. We have made our commitment for greenhouse gas reduction, and we came up with the NDC. At the moment, it is NDC 3.0, based on the meeting in Brazil just last month. Thailand also given our commitment to become net zero by 2050, based on 2065. We have changed the date and we want to reduce our greenhouse gas contribution by 47% by 2030. I'm sorry, I missed the number. 2025, I'm sorry, not 30, which is actually in the next few years per se. And you can see that these agreements are coming closer and closer to us. And the survival chain is actually the whole world and the new world order. And the government will be the one who regulated our action. And as a private sector, we need to participate in order to help everyone solve this problem. And the question is, why ESG and sustainability is the key agenda for the whole world. As we have seen in the past few years, everybody talked about ESG and sustainability. It is unavoidable because the world has changed. It's not voluntary. Even UN say that it is voluntary, but nobody really do so voluntarily. It has become compulsory and by law and by agreements. It seems not very nice when we put it that way, but that is how things work. So that leads us to the first trend, which is the regulatory trend. There are many regulatory changes in the world. It has been changed from voluntary to compulsory, and it has become another trade barrier at the moment. If you look at these trends, it is not just about collaboration anymore, but if you don't do so, it affects your license to do your businesses. And you might even fall under legal action. Let me give you a quick example. Have you heard about EU CBAM or EUDR? This is a new regulation from the EU in order to support their ESG initiatives. And in Thailand, we already start to see the draft on the Climate Change Act. In the past, we just report our greenhouse gas emission voluntarily, unless you are a listed entity where you have to produce the one report or report it in RDSD report. Once this draft become an act, as a result, all related entities need to report their greenhouse gas emission and to set their greenhouse gas reduction targets, because it will come with a carbon tax and EGS. Simply say it is an increased cost for your business, and that goes back to the question from Kun These are costs, but does it really help your business to grow, or what can we do? And the second trend, besides of the regulation, the investors also changed. Investors are very important because they provide you the funding, and these funds will set your directions. When you think about ESG from the investor point of view, they find that ESG is a screening criteria for financial risks. For example, if you don't conduct this risk assessment, like what we have seen recently in Thailand, like from the northern part and the southern part of Thailand, we suffer from floods and lots of damages. It happens, right? So that's why we need to evaluate their financial risks or climate risk because of these reasons. Now we will see more changes from the investors, such as if you invest in energy, you used to invest in coal production in the past because it gives you a lots of return on investment. But at present, if you are still investing in coal, you will need to start thinking about other companies who are transforming or transitioning from brown to green energy. So they might not be able to stop the business right away because they have already invested quite heavily in the power plant. So there must be a transitional period. Another very important factor is the financial risks. Financial risk is very important for them too. And the third group is the consumer. Kun has just mentioned briefly about fast fashion. Especially ladies, you love clothes and bags, and whenever you see the sale sign, you need to, I don't know, maybe there's a kind of magnetic force between women's and sales. So a lots of people, especially younger generation, they are started to be aware that rather than buying fast fashion where they need to change more quickly, they started to care about durability and long-lasting apparels. In China and in Singapore, there's a trend that they try to save up and they try to make the most out of their available products. This trend is actually an opportunity for a brand called Patagonia, because Patagonia say that their clothes are highly durable and you can even fix it, and they even have a project where you can sell it back as a second hand apparel and you will get some credits in return. This is one of the global trends which is driven by the consumers. Another trend goes to technology. Technology is certainly very important. It can help us solve the crisis, and it is actually the world changing tool. And speaking of ESG, we can only achieve the ESG goal when you start looking at environment, social, and governance come with a large amount of data, and we can make use of these data through technology. These technology allow us to analyze all of these data. And if you look at it in terms of greenhouse gas reduction, we also have other technologies such as the CCS, where you can capture carbon dioxide and store them under the ground, or other hydrogen technologies. I believe that many of you already know about this, but if you are not from this background, let me share with you a quick overview so we understand on the same page. We have heard about ESG, but most of the cases we think about emission like smokes, water, and waste. But when you think about, let me share with you some examples now. When you zoom into what we mean by E from ESG, this one actually came from set ESG ratings indicators, which is the older indicators. At the moment, set has already transitioned to use FTSE Russell. But let me share with you this version because it's easier to understand. What stands for E is, first, how we manage the environment, energy, water, and waste, and greenhouse gas. Like just mentioned, we are in the service sector, insurance service. We work in an office and we don't see any chimney that release smoke. So what E means for your business? Let me share with you some example. For insurance business like you can manage your waste from your company. Is it part of this? Yes, waste sorting is part of it. But is it too simple? It is very basic, right? As an insurance company who is part of actually not just the country but the world's main sectors, what you can do with E should be more than just managing your waste. You can start thinking about something more impactful, such as your policy. Because if you are still underwrite for an older or legacy coal production plant who doesn't have any effort in transitioning into something greener or some productions where it affects deforestation, you help them release the greenhouse gas and environmental issues. And what do you think about greenhouse gas management from this point of view? Maybe you are in a more difficult decision making position because you falls under scope 3 because it is not you, it is your customers or your supply chain, but it's very hard to control. But that makes you even more important because you need to be aware and start thinking about your investment portfolio and even the possible climate risk that might come with these businesses. Now, let's go to the S or social aspects.
So as we all know that it relates to workers, human rights, and also the communities. And so when we're now on the stage, we're thinking about human rights, right? It has to be also we have to have a male because we can't have just female here, otherwise it's not inclusive. And so that's what really thought about when we send people up on the stage. And so when we look at other sectors like the production sector, we have to think about the safety in the factory, in the plant, and we have to think about accidents or health or sanitation in the factory. But if we look at the insurance sector, the risk that we have is the trust from the partners or from the customers. And for example, if the factory can produce safe products and is up to the standard, but what about insurance companies? We have to issue fair policy without hiding small or hidden conditions. Like, you're trying to say you're selling 1 kilo for 50, but actually you write some small conditions there that people can't read. So this is the S part of our insurance business, right? Or if you invest in the company or factories that use child labor or slavery labor, then that's what we have to care about. And the last dimension is G. G is the foundational part, and it's the most important part because for those who are in the insurance business, you must say that your G is the strongest part. So what consists of G? It includes policy, risk management, and also supply chain management. And in the production sector, it's really easy. You can just look at your supply chain, and you perhaps has a raw material that's plastic or metal, and is it up to the standard? But what about insurance company? Your supply chain or the service providers or your partners. For example, now we are experiencing floods, right? And so people may claim for their cars, and the repair shops in your network, they have to ensure that they manage things in an environmentally friendly manner. And prior to this, we had an earthquake, so there were teams of surveyors who surveyed whether this building or this room has whatever much damage incurred. And so this is very important for insurance business to take care of the ecosystem so it's traceable and also transparent. And she already mentioned about ESG and each component of the ESG and what it consists of in each dimension. And now when we're talking about insurance industry, so let's talk broadly first, and then we can dig deep in the ecosystem and the operation of insurance businesses as much as we can and we can think about how ESG plays a role and how can it be integrated in the industry, and in order to reach that point where we want to, what kind of investment needs to be done. And so the first one, if we look at the insurance industry, it has a critical role in ensuring and risk management, right? And so the role of giving insurance, when we think about coming up with premiums, according to the ESG standards or giving incentives or exclusions to customers, we can actually use that to pressure the customers to apply and comply the ESG standards. So this can be used to drive the entire economic system. Maybe it's hard, but you can see that other businesses can do it in a much easier way, but we are like a backbone and we can try to push this forward as well. And investment as well, there are a lot of investment funds from insurance businesses. If we promote green businesses, which doesn't only include the good environmentally friendly practice companies, but we can focus on the social aspects as well. It will allow the economy to go towards the green economy and the business operations as well. Insurance businesses, they have to start first. They have to do it first. Their operational practice needs to embed ESG in their decision making and in their business operation to create confidence in the insured person and the investors. And we talked in the team that the drivers of the ESG, which we will talk about, is the insured person. They are cost sensitive and they don't really know how ESG products have an impact, and sometimes they invest and they think that the company is just trying to create good image, but they don't know how the ESG products can actually help the society or the environment. They don't see it clearly, and that's actually the main barrier. Also, cost is also something that they are sensitive to. And we will talk about that later. And as I said earlier, we have to look at the entire ecosystem, not just the insurance business. And we have to look at the insured person and also insurer and the intermediaries, agent brokers who are in between the company and the customers, and also the regulators like OIC, reinsurer. They play important roles in setting up the climate risk modeling. Reinsurer also plays a big role, and also the institutional investor as well as different associations that is in the insurance industry. They are also in this ecosystem. And now let's have a look at different players in the insurance ecosystem. So the first player is very important, which is the regulator. So the regulator in Thailand is the OIC, correct? So I'm smiling for those who are sitting in the front. The regulators, or the OIC, they regulate and set directions for insurance businesses through the National Insurance Development Plans. So I believe that now they are having the fifth plan, right? And so it's the fifth plan. And they compile all these ESG concepts and also sustainability as the main focus. And also they have risk management for climate change as well. And they also have the information disclosure framework as well. And so in the end, there must be disclosure. And there is regulation, enforcement, reporting, compliance to ESG, and also incentivization and incentive measures, motivation, creation. And they also promote insurance as a tool to manage risk in the environmental aspect, including climate change, and also for market awareness as well. And the second player that is as important as the regulator is the associations. In the insurance business, you can see that insurance, they issue ESG manuals or sustainability manuals or guidelines, and these are important because they would be the forum to exchange knowledge and forum to set direction for the industry, and also they will help promote the adaptation to comply with international regulations, which is including ESG aspects. And the third player is also important because without these people, we don't have the market, we don't have the business, which is the insured person or policy holder. They have powerful power or drivers, and so they have the demand for sustainable products, and also they actually provide the information for the insurance company to come up with appropriate products. For example, now we see that people are having a higher lifespan, and in the past people can live up to 60, but now the policy expand to people over 60 years. In the past, people with diabetes cannot buy insurance, but now there's demand from the people who buy insurance, so they want to get access to healthcare, and that's why there's a demand for such products. And the next one, thank you so much, Kun M. So in the middle here, it's actually a very important player that can help drive this forward in the education or creating awareness. So apart from that, we have reinsurer. The reinsurer is the entity that can design the products to manage the risk that they get from the insurance company. And so from ESG perspective, especially on the G part, insurance companies may play a role in designing the products, and they can actually set conditions for reinsurance as well. And the reinsurance company, they are considered an institutional investor, and they can use this money to drive the ESG concept, and then they can go for sustainable investment. And in terms of insurance, what is that starting from? So we have to think from product design, investment, risk management, governance. So if we apply ESG concept, it can actually create a good brand for that particular insurance company. So that's the ecosystem of insurance business. And so if we think about how can we implement ESG in the insurance value chain in their operation, what can we do to implement that? And the first step in the product design process, we start from product design. The company can strategize and design their products so that it can promote ESG. If we look at the E aspects, then we can think about the motor insurance, and we can design a product in a way that we can give discounts to premiums, or we can insure green business, for example, those who have green buildings, or we can insure the clean energy businesses, or we can provide insurance for homes that use renewable or clean energy, and you can consider giving them discounts on premiums. And in terms of S, what can we do on the S aspects? So for S, we have to think about society. So the products that we design or developed needs to encourage diversity, increase access amongst the public. For example, you can have products for a group of vulnerable people, for the children, for the elderly, or for the people with disability, so that the insurance company can do the S part of the ESG. And if we look at the G part, the governance part, we can emphasize on transparency in setting premiums or the conditions in policy. And you can conduct risk management in a fair manner. You can do individual risk management. For example, if a person takes care of his health very well, you can come up with a fair pricing for that person, or you can offer discount for customers who use environmentally friendly products. And next, on sales, sales is actually relating to the business operation, and it actually relates to the agents as well and the brokers. And actually we can use ESG concepts here as well. If we look at the E aspects, for example, we can focus on sales that reduce the usage of resources, for example, using digitalization or digital system, using e-payment, e-withholding tax, for example, or you can sell in a way that reduce traveling and that will reduce energy used, for example, conducting online meetings, offering products online, for example. And social aspect, what can we do on this? Actually, the broker or the agent is kind of like a brand ambassador for the company, and they can promote ESG to the customers to raise their awareness. And in terms of social aspect, the agent or the broker can actually explain the benefits, ESG related products to the customer, and they can actually build good image for themselves, not as a sales but as a sustainability advisor. And in terms of governance, the company can emphasize on the sales, and they can emphasize on the market conduct that already has regulations. They can educate the agent on fair offering or suitability of the customers, and to ensure that they don't have any misunderstandings, so that the customers get the protection that is appropriate to their needs. And so integrating ESG in the sales process is actually helping create a good image for insurance companies. And the next one is on underwriting. Underwriting is risk management, and when we use or integrate ESG in underwriting, we believe that this is the right way to manage risks. In terms of E, which I already talked about earlier, if there's a customer and you may calculate the premiums according to the environmental impact that he creates. For example, if the business is doing clean energy, they can get discounts for their premiums because there may be less casualty cost to the environment. And on the other hand, if the business is actually impacting a lot to the environment, they will get higher premium or they will not get insured at all. At the same time, in the underwriting process, we may think about the reduction in resources usage or how they manage their waste, their papers, and so this can be included in the consideration process, in the underwriting process. In terms of S, how is that relating to underwriting, right? The insurance companies can have a framework for conducting due diligence for certain customers. For example, they don't support the use of incorrect reporting, or the customers who don't promote sanitation at work, then you don't give them insurance. For example, if the accident insurance, if the workplace is safe, then there would be less incidents of accidents. So lastly, on governance, the businesses have to be transparent and has to comply with the laws, and that should be the condition for underwriting. And those that doesn't comply, there may be at risk of litigation. For example, D&O insurance, the liability insurance, for example, if the company doesn't comply with the law, then there's a risk of litigation, higher risk of litigation. Next, on investment. Investment is another strategy that is used by insurance company. On E, they need to invest more in green businesses. And the reason is that now, if we focus more on brown investments, just as I said just now, in the future, the global trend is changing towards green investments. Certain assets, for example, the coal businesses, in the future, it may not be the business that generate long-term income. So if you invest in that business, the asset may be devalued basically. And so if we look into the society aspect, we may focus on the investment that in companies that have labor rights protection, human rights protection policy, and lastly, investment, we may use ESG screening for on the companies that you are about to invest in. Many companies that doesn't have ESG concept, they will disappear, and this will actually cause some damage to the insurance company. So integrating ESG in investment process will actually help with profitability in the long term. And lastly, on claim handling, how is it related, right? An example, for example, on the E aspect, on waste management and also damaged assets, we should have a claim process to handle the waste so that it's environmentally friendly. And when there is claims, instead of submitting paper, we may need to change it to electronic claim documents. In terms of social, what do we have to do on this? And in case there is an injured person, which is a customer of an insurance company, you may have to provide a temporary shelter. The insurance can help the customer that way. And if there is a disaster, it's really hard to file complaints. And of course, insurance companies have their call centers. You can change your call centers to support people who are victims of disasters so that you can help them coordinate with the government. And lastly, the claims must be in accordance to the governance principle and is transparent. There should be clear guidelines on how to pay out the claims, and at the same time there should be an inspection in case of claim frauds or insurance fraud, because this will impact the business sector, and this fraud will actually create an impact where people who should be receiving the claim doesn't get the claim. And so this is claim handling. It's not only will reduce the environmental impact, it will create good image, and it will meet the expectation of the customer and the client as well. So how can we move forward with a good direction? So PSI is like a compass, and it's a framework which is developed by the UN together with the leading insurance companies so that the insurance companies can do these three things perfectly. The first one is risk manager. We have to be a good risk manager, and the second one is insurer. We have to be an insurer that understand about sustainability, and the third one is investor. We have to be investors who are responsible to the world. And now there are 200 plus organizations who already adopted PSI, and OIC already adopted PSI. And so with their adoption, it is an announcement to the world that Thailand is ready to enhance the insurance companies to international standards, just like any other leading companies. Actually, thank you so much, Kun M. So PSI principle is very simple. We talked about ESG and how it's related to the insurance process, but how do we implement it to see an effective outcome? So there are 4 principles of PSI. The first one is ourselves, our own business. So we have to embed ESG in the business decision making process. The organization have to incorporate ESG in their business strategies, including the strategy that is coming up that has come up by the directors of the company. And when we look at the insurance companies, we have to think about risk management, insurance, investment, and product development, sales, as well as the claim handling process as well. And so after doing this already, after having the strategy already, we have to implement, we have to have an indicator or KPI. So if we do by ourselves but others don't do, then it's really hard to succeed. But then we have to work with clients in the same ecosystem. But why do we have to do that? This is to create awareness of ESG with our partners so that partners can disclose their ESG related activities and the companies can select the business partners who actually implement their ESG activities. And thirdly, after working with the partners, we should work with governments and other key stakeholders in order to help formulate the policies, incentives, and enforcement. And we also need to ensure the close monitoring, and we also have to work with the educational institution or international schools or international institutions to have a research about ESG. We can work with the research center to develop a model to estimate risk. And lastly, when we do all this, we have to disclose the information to the public. The ecosystem in the insurance industry, we have to disclose ESG information to the public so that there is transparency. So it's noon. I think everyone is hungry, so I'm just going to speed up towards the end. And despite the fact that Thai insurance companies wanting to integrate ESG in their operation, but actually, in fact, we are faced with problems and obstacles and challenges in our implementation of ESG concepts. The first one is big data. Actually, the problem is not a lack of data or shortage of data, but the quality of data and the data management problem. And what do we do to manage this problem? We may need to use technology to help us. And the important thing is that when there's data, people who analyze this data, the data experts or expert on insurance, is still lacking. So we need to build these kind of experts. Another barriers, as mentioned earlier, that customers are critical, and when customers do not see the benefits in the short term of buying ESG related product, then there would be no demand in the market. And so firstly, we have to create awareness first. We say that Gen Z actually can pay for premium products, but maybe not green premium products yet. They may consider the price and the protection for insurance products. And sometimes this ESG products, when we say that, okay, it helps with the society, with the environment, but they don't see the outcome right away. So what do we have to do on this part? So we need to have a dashboard to show that, okay, some of the premium is invested in green bond and some parts are being invested to help the community, and there may be a third party verifier to verify the credibility of the insurance company and also the price barrier problem. Sometimes people are very price sensitive, and the pricing is maybe too high and it's perhaps not accessible for them. So maybe we can change from paying high to love the planet, or to love the planet and pay lower or something like that. And so if, for example, if someone save the energy in their house, we can actually reduce their premium, or if they use certain raw materials to build their house that actually save energy, then we can actually discount their premiums. And this is actually some of our suggestions. And accessing vulnerable group is something that we already talked about. We should have more products at an more affordable price, and so therefore there would be more accessibility. And lastly, we need to drive collaboration throughout the ecosystem. If we go alone, we will not go far. And so each player has their role in contributing to sustainability in insurance business. And to answer the critical question whether this is actually dragging down our profit or not, would it allow our business to be sustainable? We had a study that in the past 20 years, the business with high sustainability, in the long run, they will have better financial performance than lower sustainability business if they uphold the governance. But if they don't uphold the governance, then that will directly impact the financial performance. And so I think that insurance business will go towards that way, but it needs collaboration from all stakeholders. So for today, that's what we want to leave with from Baker McKenzie. I don't want to take up your lunchtime. Thank you so much.
นะครับคุณอัมพิ
A big round of applause for Baker McKenzie, Vika Amnat and Varadampa. And may I invite the executive from the OIC, the special expert, Ms. Mayuri Suthi Ratanapan from the OIC to present a token of appreciation to our panelists.
เดี๋ยวเราจะมอบให้ทีละท่านนะครับแล้วก็หลังจาก
Let us go through the panelists one by one, and during the break, if you want to know more, please approach our speakers. And we still have one more session with the guest speaker from Singapore is going to share with you another very interesting topic. I believe that you are all familiar with WTW. Please stay tuned, and the presentation will continue in the next few minutes. Thank you very much.
คุณอัมพิกากุมารนะครับ
Ms. Ampika Guruman and Thiranampa Kapani. Next, Mr. Amnat Pitak. And may I invite our panelists and speaker to stay on the stage for a photo opportunity.
ขอบพระคุณครับ
And thank you very much. And also, thank you very much, Baker McKenzie and Ms. Mayurin. Ladies and gentlemen, we will jump right into the next topic before we proceed to lunch break. And the next topic is on the automated FWA detection, leveraging the power of generative AI and predictive modeling. Sales and practice lead from WTW Singapore. And now the speaker is with us, but it will be online participation. And once again, if you want to submit your question, please connect with us through Zoom. Please welcome Oi San Chu.
Hi everyone.
And for the next session,
I hope you
please
enjoy.
welcome Miss Oi San Chu.
Thank you. Hi everyone. I hope you enjoyed this morning's sessions. Today I'm going to move a little bit faster because I believe I'm between you and lunch, okay? But a quick introduction to myself. I'm Oi San. I'm based in Singapore, but I've been covering Southeast Asia for a long time. And in fact, more recently, I'm now covering the whole of APAC for life and health under the flag of WTW, Insurance Consulting and Technology Team. So for those of you who don't really know us that well, under each of the alphabets, WTW is between 150 to 200 years of history, and ICT, which is one of the businesses within WTW, has been serving the insurance industry for a long time through consulting as well as technology. Okay, so we're going to dive into today's session. A little bit of introduction to set the scene, and then after that, kind of like, hey, what's happening in the FWA space, and how we can use AI to help us in that area. Okay, so medical inflation has been continues to be high across the region, and we can see Thailand here as well. Not the highest in Southeast Asia, but no, by no means is it a level that we're comfortable with. In fact, more importantly, compared to general inflation, all countries, are far. The inflation is far higher than general inflation, which is a problem as you go on. It just means that you can't keep repricing out of the problem, right? And also at the older ages, as people come off their regular income, this is going to be a problem for them as well. So in Asia Pacific, when we surveyed the insurers, actually most insurers are concerned about overuse or misuse of care due to medical practitioners. This is probably not the first time you're seeing something like this or this kind of feedback, but statistically, the survey shows 80%, close to 80% of the insurers are concerned about the overuse and misuse of care. And this really comes down to the role of insurers. It's not that we don't want to pay, it's that we want to pay for the services that are rendered in a fair manner, right? That is really what we're trying to aim for. Turning to governments, and the truth is Thailand has been embarking on quite a few of these initiatives to create that ecosystem that allows better provision of services, more fair provision of services. But if you focus on the kind of like dark blue, that kind of like purple, gray, purple, dark colors, blue, you'll see that the ones that are very, very significant as an enabler for FWA reduction is around establishing unique patient identifiers, a national data exchange, standard exchange for the rules of transmission of claims data, and enforcing basic standards for electronic health records. So again, I think Thailand is also on the journey to creating some of this, as are some other countries. So certainly this is maybe something that the industry can look to see if we can create some national level standards and processes to help ourselves in the process. Okay, so what can insurers do about this? Okay, we talked about how governments can do certain things, but what can insurers do, right? And at WTW, we looked at the process, and we looked at kind of like, what's happening pre-treatment, during treatment, and post-treatment. And really pre-treatment, some very important decisions are being made. The client will select the doctor and hospital, the treatment plan, maybe get a second opinion. And during treatment, of course, receive care, and post-treatment recovery rehabilitation. And right now, insurers are doing quite a lot during and post-treatment, especially managing large case sizes, monitoring care paths. Certainly, some insurers have already started, looking at fraud, waste, and abuse. And in fact, some insurers are even more advanced, having a completely automated process to flag FWA and monitor readmissions. And we see the wide spectrum where the insurers play, to very, very basic manual processes to more sophisticated processes. But we believe with new technologies around Gen AI, this process can be enhanced. Okay, so I'll show you some examples as to how it can be enhanced and how you can use it. But as technology evolves, we can try and leverage some of this in our processes. Going back to pre-treatment, to be honest, this is where the largest influence on claims costs happens. I mean, literally, the selection of the doctor and hospitals for especially some of the chronic cases where policyholders do have time to consider this is the most important decision and drives the claims costs ultimately. However, the information is currently confusing and disorganized in this part of the process, and we believe that working with insurers, there's a place for insurers to provide structured and informed guidance, both on cost and care outcomes to their. Which then brings us to what we've been talking to insurers about in the market, really kind of like two pillars. The first pillar around FWA detection, and that's the basic layer kind of process that you should have in your insurance operations, which really identifies FWA, as you can imagine. What we are seeing in most markets, the claims cost reduction is around 3 to 5%. And why is it only 3 to 5% when there are many statistics that say, 35% of claims are FWA? It's really around the difficulty of getting and recovering claims, right? Yes, you can identify them, but can you recover the claims amount? Unless it's outright fraud, anything else around waste and abuse is around medical necessity. And therefore, it's a difficult argument with the medical providers to say, hey, was that medically necessary or not? Okay, then there's an argument about whether it is or not medically necessary. So hard to get money back, right? Okay, on the second part around care steerage, this is where we see the potential for insurers to potentially help customers and yet optimize their costs by a bigger margin. We estimate around 9 to 10% reduction in claims costs using a care steerage concept. And in fact, we see insurers, some regional insurers already are starting to implement this. In fact, in Thailand as well, we are also helping some clients embark on this journey of care steerage as well. Okay, so today, in the interest of time, we will deep dive more into the FWA detection box, okay, which is on the left-hand side. Or if you're interested to find out more, understand more about care steerage as well as some details around FWA, please scan the QR code on the upper right that you can see, contact me, send me an email, let me know what you're interested in, and we can have more conversation. Okay, so I'll deep dive into FWA today. Okay, I've got a poll going. I hope that you can participate just to understand where you are in your FWA process. Do you have an automated FWA process? Okay, not manual, but an automated one that goes straight through from data all the way to identification of the FWA cases. Please scan the QR code, and let us know right now. Yes, no plans to have one, or we're building one now. I assume that everyone can see the QR code. Otherwise, please do raise your hands. So I'm going to give everyone a minute or two to reply. So we're seeing more responses. Please do. If you don't know it, it's fine as well. But if you do know, please do let us know, because we want to understand. Hey, where's everybody in this process? Given that it is quite an important process to set up within your health practice, right? Okay, so okay, great. Okay, please enter your answers, responses, and you can see what everyone is doing as well. But as we see the numbers coming in, I mean, we do see that hey, quite a number of insurers are saying no, but we want to build one. So there is quite some interest to say, hey, this could really help our process. Okay, and of course now we are kind of almost even with no plans to have one as well. So obviously some other focus areas for some other insurers. Okay. So do put in your responses, and then we'll get a consolidated response from everyone at the end of this. Okay. Make 1 more minute, 5 more seconds in the interest of time. Okay, we'll carry on now. but let's see how AI can help us. Okay, where we see this going is that we're combining Gen AI and predictive analytics. As the camera was panning around the room just now, I saw a very cool poster at the back, at the front, showing AI, on the poster. So I think we're right on point here. But this is what we see the FWA analytics engine to be. Okay, so there will be a Gen AI component right up front, and Gen AI will play two roles. One is to extract the data, unstructured data, to put it into structured data for onward analysis. And then also the ability to do the first cut of an FWA analysis. Okay, and I'll show you which bits it can do and which bits is not quite Gen AI. The second bit is around predictive models. Okay, and this is kind of using predictive models, statistical approaches to benchmark, to compare patterns, to come up with some indicators of FWA. And then finally putting that all together into a composite score, okay? And then, of course, delivering that to your claims team to flag whether there's FWA or not. Of course, this engine is very much integrated with the concept of straight-through processing as well. Straight-through processing are the cases that are clear. It's within the terms of payment. There's no FWA indication, go straight to payment, right? And then FWA is the kind of like second channel where it goes to, okay, I think we need some human intervention here, but here are some clear indicators of FWA and why. And then your claims assessor can carry on forward and follow up, basically. Okay, so I have a video. This shows the capability of Gen AI to extract data. Okay, so you can imagine this in an automated process. Right now, I'm just showing the video to show you, hey, it can pick up data. It can even interpret and fill in the blanks for you. Okay, I hope it's not too small. Okay, so this is something that we built in-house. And if you look at it, okay, so you can look at this particular invoice. Okay, this particular invoice is not very clear. It's got words, it's got printed information, obviously. And then basically, okay, once you kind of put it through Gen AI, you can say, hey, what's the medical condition, right? And then basically you're going to think about it and then, okay, here's the medical condition, okay? And you can imagine this being an automated process where it's chugging through all your medical records and just pulling out this information. Here, what is the date of the CT scan? Okay, what I didn't point out was the date of the CT scan was the handwriting at the bottom, and it had day and month, but not even the year. Okay, and so Gen AI can do things like, okay, look for, okay, where does it say CT scan? And okay, here I'll pause. 24th of May 2019. Okay, so actually the year was not even on the document. It actually inferred based on 24th of May, and then for the rest of the documents, what the year was. Okay, so you can see the capability of Gen AI in terms of helping you pull out the data. So we do work with clients who feel that, oh, I don't have that much data to work with. Look, if as long as your data is in PDFs, pretty much we can work with you to kind of like extract the data, kind of go back and okay, make sure all the scanned documents are put through this automated process for extraction, and then you start populating a historical database for analysis. Okay, so that's kind of like pulling out the data, but now down to the analytics, and there are really very different ways of looking at FWA analytics. You can have pretty basic ones where they are summary matrix, and they just describe, right, or who are the top 10 providers in your portfolio, what are they, how are they prescribing and things like that. But our point here is that despite all the different ways of looking at this, actually the predictive analytics statistical part of things are still the primary way of detecting FWA. Okay, and we now have Gen AI coming in to maybe do some of the qualitative aspects. Okay, so if you can imagine in the old world, you have some experts who manually go through some of these reports to see if it was clinically appropriate. Now you can use Gen AI to assist. And we always advise clients at this stage, it's always assist and not take over. It's to give indications to your staff, but your staff then looks at the final kind of like report and then takes action, right? It can also help with kind of like rules engine. You hear rules engine and you think maybe it's not Gen AI is more of a rules thing. But if you had a lot of T&Cs to cover, multiple different rules that you need to synthesize together to make a decision whether to pay or not, Gen AI is pretty good at that as well. Okay. Okay, so in the category of Gen AI, again, there are some categories under FWA that it's pretty good at helping with the first cut. So we have concepts of upcoding, which means that someone goes in for a sore throat and it turns out that the code is under some some very severe code under that, right? Unbundling, that means billing in separate procedure codes, so you get more money back. Medically unnecessary services, document mismatch and falsification. You can imagine, especially for this one, document mismatch and falsification, it's hard to do it through statistics, right? You literally need someone to eyeball the documents and then kind of like come up with some conclusion. And Gen AI is your automatic eyeball for that. And in fact, the frequency of this happening is pretty high, right? Pattern or volume abuse, where maybe the doctor's repeating patient notes, and this can be picked up as well. Okay, so another question that we typically get, we don't have so much data, how are you going to train this AI? Okay, so if you're not so familiar with Gen AI, there are different ways of working with Gen AI so that you get the right answers. The world of having lots and lots of data and training it is the job of open AI, and the real, the people who are developing AI. How practitioners like us use Gen AI, especially in a niche space like insurance, you actually use prompt engineering and a concept called retrieval augmented generation. Means you tell the AI very, very specific instructions as to where's the data, how you interpret the data, what I want the output to be, and what you can and cannot do as a AI. And you give them the data to read, okay? And you say, just read off this and analyze this, that's it. Don't go outside these parameters. And then you can minimize the hallucination and get pretty good answers from Gen AI. So that's how we will approach this as opposed to training of the LLM. Okay, so next on predictive analytics, it's really about looking at patterns to see, hey, is the length of stay higher than expected, claim amount higher than expected, and basically it would check through historical data to understand some benchmarks around that and build the predictive models around that. On the left-hand side, some things can be built as business rules. So, for example, very short duration from the last claim or since inception. Hey, these are some flags, on FWA behavior that we should look out for. So once you have concepts like normalization of the data and things like that, you start moving into the world of predictive analytics. Okay, so I wanted to share some stories from different insurers that we've worked with or looked at. So there's a concept of bucket tipping, for example, and this example is actually from Australia. Okay, so under the Medicare benefit schedule, basically after 30 minutes, for example, the fee schedule is increased. So from $39, they pay $59 basically, and then it goes on to $79. So there's an incentive, okay? So it's a design issue really, where where the anesthetists will tip over to the next bucket basically to get the higher fee, okay? And you can see that happening with these two providers, whereas like the expected behavior is provider Z, okay? So if we have product designs like this, okay, there could be a problem with bucket tipping, okay? This looks like, hey, you're just putting the information into the different pods, yes, but there's a lot of math that goes behind this in terms of normalizing the information. So maybe for an older patient, for example, maybe it is correct to be in the next bucket, and then the younger patients, maybe you don't need to keep going to the next bucket. So we would normalize the data so that it's comparable for within each provider and across providers as well. Okay, and that's where you start getting to kind of like predictive analytics. Another example, on a gastro example, this is where we say, this is the concept of normalization really. We will use our algorithm to look at, hey, what are the key drivers driving the differences? In this case, we look at gastro as a specialty. So for example, obviously the main procedure is a very, very important factor driving the different costs. So we would normalize the cost between the different procedures so that it becomes more comparable. So that's the concept of normalization. Okay, so I hope I'm doing okay with time, nearing the end really. So basically, I kind of introduced FWA. I talked about some of the Gen AI use cases for FWA, showed some examples of predictive analytics around FWA. And that's really the first bucket. Today, we won't cover cash steerage. Again, if you're interested to find out more about either of these two cards, please do feel free to scan the QR code, send me an email. But in summary, we see FWA as just one of the pillars where you can manage claims. It is actually an entire ecosystem of things that you need to do to manage your health portfolio better. Cash steerage is one of them. Of course, the traditional ways of hospital negotiation, provider negotiation, all of those things still needs to be done on top of these two pillars that we talk to clients about, right? Okay, so I think that's it. I will now pause for Q&A. I believe the host maybe is collecting some questions.
All right, thank you so much, Oi-san. Thank you for your insightful presentation. And now we are waiting for a question from the audiences. ตอนนี้นะครับเดี๋ยวเราจะให้ทุกท่าน
And now it's time for you to submit the question to Miss Oi San Chu from WTW on the topic that she has just presented. I believe that it is truly applicable to your organization, but how useful is it to you? The floor is still open for questions. So please feel free to submit your question. We will show the QR code on the screen in the next few seconds. So please scan the QR code if you have any question for Ms. Oi San Chu. And then we will proceed to lunch break.
Maybe you should have said that. Now everybody just wants to go for lunch.
All right, you know Thai really good, Oi-san. And I hope you have had lunch already, Oi-san.
Yes, I did.
All right. And while we are waiting for the questions, any suggestions or advice for Thai insurance industry?
Yeah. Certainly, we have been speaking to Thai insurers as well about one or both of these concepts. I think for a lot of insurers, the question is around data. So our point is that, look, let's leverage new technologies to pull out the data first, okay? And from there you can do a lot of things. You want to do FWA, you can do FWA. You want to do cash steerage, you can do cash steerage. You want to do just understanding what's happening to your portfolio, you can do that as well. So let's start with data. Let's get it out, okay? And then we can go from there. If you're serious about your health insurance portfolio, I believe there is an opportunity for insurers to build this very, very strong foundation around controlling your claims costs and then really being a leader in the health insurance space and growing that significantly. Because the market is there, the demand is there, okay? It's just that as an insurance industry, we haven't gotten our processes properly in place yet to enable ourselves to grow.
All right, it starts from the data, right? But it got to be polished and refined one, right?
You need to start somewhere. Again, 80-20 rule, you don't have to have perfect data, but you need to start from somewhere. Okay. You can scan the QR code to contact me, but we have some case studies where we are working with some of the smaller insurers and they have limited data, like literally for the gastro example, our client had maybe 500 sample data, 500 cases only, right? When their broader database maybe had about 2,000 cases that we could look at, but 500 with richer data that we could look at. And already we gave them some insights around what was happening in portfolio, what are the potential actions that they could take, and what are the next steps to enrich the data and to even get more information out of their data. So actually the client was very interested in our results because it clearly showed them a way forward in terms of thinking and their framework. And so, yeah, we are going to be working more closely with this client over the next year.
All right, let me translate this in Thai for my audiences ก็ถามว่ามี
So my question was, do you have any suggestion for Thai industry? So it goes back to the point about data, but in this case, as you know about data, in order to get data, the question is, where do we get the data from? How do we aggregate that? How do we manage that? And how we can use these data? In case of smaller players where you don't have a sizable portfolio, it might be easier for you to manage. But if you have a big database, especially our insurers, where you have a lot of customers, you might need to invest in your team and in your database, let alone in certain aspect where it has been migrated to cloud computing, where there are some legacy system still operating all around.
No question right here, Oisin. Thank you so much, Oisin Chu from WTW to Singapore for joining the session. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you.
A round of
Thanks, everybody.
applause
Bye.
for Miss Chu, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
เป็นสปิเกอร์จาก
So that was our speaker from Singapore, and now it's the time that we have waiting for. It's the halftime break for all of us. You can enjoy your lunch at the dining room, and we will continue our afternoon session at 1:30 in the afternoon Thailand time. We will continue our afternoon session on 1:30 p.m. Thailand time, and there are more presentations in the afternoon waiting for you, and there are more interesting content in the exposition right in front of this room. And do not forget our hashtag IIS 2025. I'll see you again at 1:30.